Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back. Today's Daf Yomi is Megillah Daf Chavav. We're holding at the new parak, which is towards the bottom of Chafei Amud Beis. Says the Mishnah, Bnei Ha'ir, city dwellers, Shemachru Ruchei Bashalir, who happened to sell their city square. And Rashi explains, 2 lines from the bottom, Yesh by Kedusha, a Ruchei Bashalir contains Kedusha. Kedemefarish b'Gemara, as the Gemara by us will explain. Why? Hayil u'mispalin boy b'taniyos u'b'mamados. On certain occasions, they actually daven out in the town center, out in the city square, during fast days, etc. And therefore, that makom has some kedusha. And when you sell off that property, you have to take the money received in exchange for that property and upgrade it, pick it up a notch, use it to purchase something which has even more kedusha, rather than downgrading, than using that money for a non-kedusha property or item. So Bnei Ir Shemachru Ruchei Bashalir, they sold off the Rochai, the city square, which has some kedusha. What do they do with the money? Loichin b'dama beis hakneses. They can only go up, rise to the next level. They go up the ladder to the next level of kedusha. Use it to purchase a beis hakneses, which of course contains more kedusha than just a city square, which is used occasionally for tefillah. Beis hakneses is a permanent makom tefillah. So it's considered an upgrade. Beis HaKnesses, should they decide to sell the Beis HaKnesses in the city, once again, they have to upgrade. Loikhin Teva. They have to take that money and purchase a Aron Kodesh, which houses the Sefer Torah itself. So that's considered something which has more Kedusha than the Beis HaKnesses. Teva, should they sell the Aron HaKodesh, Loikhin Mitpachis. They can only use it to purchase something which is higher than the Teva. The Mitpachis, those the materials used to wrap the Sefer Torah, what we call the mantle. Mitpachis, they sell the mitpachis. Yichus Svarim, they have to go up to the next level, upgrade, purchase Svarim, which Rashi says on Nevi'im Uksuvim. Svarim, if they sell the Nevi'im Uksuvim, like in Torah, they can only go up to the next level, which is the actual Sefer Torah. So the point is, Malin B'Kodesh, you always upgrade in matters of Kedusha. You take something which has a lesser degree of Kedusha, and use it to buy something with a higher degree of Kedusha. Aval, but you can't go down. Im Machru Torah, should they have decided to sell a Sefer Torah itself, they can't take the money and purchase something less. Like Chusvarim, they can't purchase Nevi'im Uksuvim, which is something less Kadesh than a Sefer Torah. Svarim, they sold Nevi'im Uksuvim, like Chumit Pachais, they can't use it to purchase the ornamental materials which address the Sefer Torah. Mitpachais, they sell the mitpachais like Choteva. They can't use it to purchase the Aron HaKodesh, which is even further removed from the Sefer Torah. Teva, they sell the Aron HaKodesh. Lo yikchu Beis HaKnesses, they can't use it to buy a shul. Beis HaKnesses, likewise, if they sell the shul, lo yikchu Rochaiv, they cannot use that money to purchase a Rochaiv, which is lower in stature than the shul itself. V'chein b'meisrein. The same thing applies to leftover money. Suppose they sell the shul and buy a Sefer Torah, and there's some funds left over. Even the Moisarei and the leftovers have to be directed at something of a higher Kedusha, because Malin B'Kodesh, Ve'en Maridin, as Rashi will explain for us right now, we're on the top line of Rashi, Avol Machru Torah. So they have to go up, they can't downgrade. Why? Shemalin B'Kodesh, Ve'en Maridin. We always upgrade in matters of Kedusha, and we don't downgrade. What is the source of this halacha? Tesefta. Malin b'kodesh. D'chsev vayokem Moshe es hamishkan. Moshe assembled the mishkan. Now B'tzalel asa, who built it? B'tzalel. Moshe she'yugadu menu. Moshe, who is greater than him, Hakimai, he actually assembled the mishkan. So you see that you go up from B'tzalel to Moshe. So you know Malin b'kodesh. What about ve'in meridin? V'loy meridin. D'chsev es machtes achatom eil ben afshoisam. The machtes, the shovels presented by the fellows who were involved in the machlekas of Korach, they took the machtes and used it for the mizbeach. They flattened them out and they made them tzipul mizbeach to coat the mizbeach Ki krivim l'fnei Hashem ha'yikdashu. So once it becomes kodesh, kivan shehugdashu, we don't downgrade. We're not moirid, and therefore they have to use it for something of kedusha. V'chein b'moisrein, machru svarim, v'lakhu b'mikzas al damim Torah. It took Tanakh, and they use it for Torah. And there's some leftover money. Even those leftover funds cannot be directed at something with a lesser kedusha. Says the Gemara, Bnei Ir shemachru ruchayva shel ir. So the Mishnah indicates that a ruchayva shel ir has some kedusha. Amar Rabba bar Bachana, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Zu divrei Rabbi Menachem b'Rabbi Yosi stumta. This happens to be the shita of Rabbi Menachem bar Yosi, who Rebbe happened to word his Mishnah in line with. It was in line with this shita. A stam Mishnah, anonymous Mishnah, stated according to Rabbi Menachem's shita. But it's a das yachid. It's not the prevalent opinion. Avachacham Aimrim, Haruchayiv ein b'yishim kedusha. No, a ruchayiv has no kedusha. It's just a street. And therefore, if you sell the ruchayiv, you're not restricted at all with what you can do with those funds. Asks the Gemara. So what's his shita? Rabbi Menachem bar Yesi, my time. Why does he maintain the ruchayiv has kedusha? Answers the Gemara. Hoil va'am mispalin by betaniyos ma'amodos. Since on occasion, taniyos and ma'amodos, and some actually take out the word ma'amodos. So sometimes they daven out in the street, and therefore it has some kedusha, although it's not a permanent place of tefillah like a shul. It's considered one notch lower, but it still has kedusha. That's his opinion. The Rabbanan, who disagree with this, they hold hahu akroi ba'alma. That's an occasional event. It doesn't give kedusha to the ruchayiv, and therefore a ruchayiv is not considered a makom of kedusha at all. Beis HaKnesses loichin teva. They sell their shul. You take the money to purchase an aron kodesh. The Mishnah indicates you can sell a shul. The Bnei here have the authority to sell a Beis HaKnesses. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar B'Yonasan Leishano. This is only said by a small time shul. Ella Beis HaKnesses shel Kfarim. Beis HaKnesses in a village. It's their own private property. They can sell it off if they wish to do so. Aval Beis HaKnesses shel Krachin. But if it's a Beis HaKnesses that belongs to a large city, that's different. Kiva de me'alma osule, since it was built with the intent to have it serve the rabbin, all those who visit the city for business, come to the market. Loi matzu mazabnele. So the members of this the city, members of the shul, don't have the authority to sell off the shul. It's not really theirs anymore. Why? The havli the rabbin. It's considered like a public, a communal asset. Belongs to the rabbin, belongs to the world, belongs to all Jews in the world, because it was meant to serve them. So they can't even sell it. Amar Rav Ashi, I have an exception to this halacha. The shul in my town, Matam Achasya, even though it's frequented by many, many Jews who come from out of town, here it's different. Since they're coming with me in mind, they know I'm the Rav of the city, and he's the supreme authority in town. Here it's different. If I wish, I can sell it, because he was an absolute authority. The shul is built and is used and is visited, knowing full and well that he's the supreme authority in town, and therefore it's considered up to him whether or not to sell it. Meisvei, we're going to have a kasha on Rav Yonason's chiddush that a Beis HaKnesses shel Krachem, since it's used by all the international visitors, it has a din of a communal Beis HaKnesses. It belongs to the Klal Yisrael at large, and is not within it's not within the ability of the locals to sell it. Listen to this kasha. Meisvei, a Rabbi Yehuda, Ma'asa Beis HaKnesses shel Tersim. There was a shul belonging to copper miners, Tersim. Shai B'Yerushalayim. It was their private shul. Shemachru Rabbi Lezer. One day they decided to sell off the asset. They sold it to Rabbi Lezer. V'asa b'chad tzrochav, and used it for his purposes. It became his private property. It's a shul in Yerushalayim. You don't get a more public city than that. V'asam de krachim hava. And how could they sell a shul in a krach? Isn't this a kasha on our halach? Answers the Gemara. Hahibe knishta zuti hava. That was a small shtibel, a small shul, even though it was in Yerushalayim. But since it was small in size, it was not meant to serve the public at large. V'inu havdu, they built it. It was their personal, their local shul. So notwithstanding the fact that it was in Yerushalayim, which is a Mokim Rabbim, but this particular property was not visited by many, and therefore it never acquired this new status of this communal type of status. It was considered their own private property, in which case they can sell it to Rebbe Lezer. Meisvei, here comes another kash. Pasuk says, "Bebeis eretz achuzaschem." You come to Eretz Yisrael, you find a nega in the Beis eretz achuzaschem, a place which you inherit, a house found in territory allocated to the Shvatim. And we learn achuzaschem mitame ben negoim. Only a nega found in that type of territory can potentially become tummy with a nega. Ve'en Yerushalayim mitame ben negoim, but not Yerushalayim. You know why? Tanakama holds Yerushalayim was left open. It was never allocated to any shevet. It's a communal city. It belongs to all of Yisrael. And therefore it's exempt from negoim. It's not a chuzaschem. Rabbi Yehuda, ani lo shamati. I only heard about the Beis HaMikdash. Ela mokim mekudesh b'lvad. Ela mokim migdash b'lvad. Famaya Rebbeim, I only heard about the Beis HaMikdash. That's exempt from nega. Rashi explains. The pasuk says, "Ba'asher loy habayis." It needs to be my private home. Beis HaMikdash is not anyone's private asset, and therefore Beis HaMikdash is exempt from hilchos negoim. Oh, let's make a diuk. We can imply from here, batim nesiyos, batim midrashes, shuls, batim midrashes, mitamen. They potentially can have a nega. Right? Rabbi Yehuda only exempts the actual Beis HaMikdash. It's a Makam Kaddish. But a Beis HaKnesses in Yerushalayim, even though it's a international city, used by many, serving the public at large, you can have a nega. Amai. Hadikrachen havu. Why do we say it's Mitame ben Negoim? We're talking about a Beis HaKnesses in a large city, Yerushalayim. You don't get more public area than that. In which case, why? Why is it called Beis Eretz Achuzaschem? It wasn't really allocated to anybody. It's been designated for public use, for Klal Yisrael use. So a nega cannot apply in this type of situation. So according to Rabbi Yonasan, the Beis HaKnesses shel krach has the din of Rabbim. So why is the Beis HaKnesses in Yerushalayim going to become Tamei ben Negoim according to Rabbi Yehuda? Ema, let's revise the Brisa. Rabbi Yehuda, ani lo shamati. I only heard that the following Mekaymes cannot have a nega. Ela mokim mekudash b'lvad. Not mokim migdash, referring to the Beis HaMikdash. Any mokim that contains kedusha, Beis HaMikdash, Beis HaKnesses, any mokim that has kedusha is exempt from nega, and this fits very well with our halacha. Even a shul in Yerushalayim is exempt because it's not Beis Eretz Achuzaschem. It's considered a communal asset, since it serves Klal Yisrael at large. Okay, so back to our brisa here. Tanakama says Yerushalayim is totally not Mitame ben Negoim. Rabbi Yehuda says a mokem mekudash, okay, but otherwise the other houses in Yerushalayim can have a nega. Micah Mifsaki, what's the point of that machlekes? Tanakama savar learn Schalka Yerushalayim was Shvatim. Initially, Yerushalayim was never divided amongst the Shvatim. It remained a communal entity, Klal Yisrael's city, in which case it's not called Beis Eretz Achuzaschem. There's no nega applied. Rabbi Yehuda Savarnes Chakel Yerushalayim l'Shvatim. He disagrees. Yerushalayim was also allocated, divided amongst the Shvatim. It's considered Achuzaschem. So technically, it's Matama ben Agoyim, except for the Mokoim Mikudash, as we explained, which is not considered to have been allocated because it belongs to Klal Yisrael. Ubeplukta dehani tanoi. And this question of whether or not Yerushalayim was divided amongst the Shvatim is actually connected to another machlokes as well. We find elsewhere that there's machlokes between Tanoim in this regard. The Sanya, Mahoye b'chalkal sheYehuda. So firstly, it's clear from this Tanakama here that Yerushalayim was divided. He's asking, which part of Yerushalayim belonged to Yehuda, which part to Binyamin? Mahoye b'chalkal sheYehuda, harabayis. So going from east to west, you have the harabayis, the empty area of the harabayis, halishkos, va'azoris, the chambers, the azoris, Ezras Nashim, going up to Ezras Yisrael, further west is Ezras Keihanim. All that was in Shevet Yehuda's territory. Umahoye b'chalkal sheBinyamin, which part of the Beis Hamikdash was situated in Binyamin's territory? Ulam, Beheichel, Ubeis Kodesh HaKadoshim. So proceeding further to Ma'arav, to west, you have the Ulam, the Heichel, all the way to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Now what about the Makam HaMizbeach? So for the most part, the Mizbeach was situated on Chelik Binyamin. But there was a small sliver, a small strip of land upon which the easternmost portion of the Mizbeach was meant to be situated. Actually, the Yisoid, the foundation, because on the bottom of the Mizbeach, you had a Yisoid, a protrusion. It would stick out an arm. That was called the Yisoid. So on the eastern side of the Mizbeach, right, coming from the front of the Beis Hamikdash, Ezras Nashim, Ezras Yisrael, Ezras Kehanim, and when you meet that Mizbeach on the eastern side, there was a strip of land which ran all along that eastern border of the Mizbeach. Uratzua, this strip, it left Yehuda's territory. It was a protrusion out of Yehuda's territory, and protruded into Binyamin's territory. For some reason, Hashem divided land this way, that this strip came from Yehuda into Binyamin's chelik, upon which the Mizbeach should have been built, meaning it was the Makam HaMizbeach. It was actually just the slot where the Yisoid, where the eastern foundation, so to speak, that protrusion, that Amma protrusion coming out of the Mizbeach, that extension, was meant to have been situated. And that was actually Chelka Yehuda. And the rest, of course, was Binyamin, meaning going forward towards Ma'arav, towards west, upon which the Mizbeach was actually built, was part of Binyamin's territory. And actually, as Rashi brings from a Gemara that actually, because of this phenomenon, there was no Yisoid on that side, because Tosfos brings that the entire Mizbeach is meant to be on Binyamin's territory. B'chalkal shel Torif, Binyamin Ze'ev Yitraf, it's a pasuk, so it has to be on Binyamin's territory. And since this piece of land, this strip belonged to Yehuda, so they left out. They didn't actually build the Yisoid on that side. So technically, the entire Mizbeach was on Binyamin's territory. But there was a little strip that sort of interfered. Mizbeach could have been on that place as well. At least the eastern Yisoid should have been there. Binyamin HaTzadik foresaw this ahead of time with Ruach HaKodesh, and he was upset. He was mitzvah. He was in distress. Every day he was davening. He wanted to sort of swallow up that strip of land so that it's incorporated in his territory, so that he has a full mizbeach on his territory. Like a person scratching his head and in distress. Because of that Mesiras Nefesh, because of that desire, Binyamin was Zayich, that indeed he became the host for the Shechina, meaning the urn was placed in his territory in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. In any case, it's clear from this brisa that Yerushalayim was divided, part to Binyamin, part to Yehuda, and this is in line with our Tanakama earlier. With Rabbi Yehuda earlier, that Yerushalayim was Neschalak l'Shvatim. V'hai, but the following Tana holds Savar Lo Neschalak l'Shvatim. It was not divided amongst the Shvatim. It remained an international city with access to all. Haitana Savar Lo Neschalak l'Shvatim. The Sanya Emaskirin Batim Yerushalayim. You're not meant to rent out homes in Yerushalayim. And Farshim explain, we're speaking during the time of Yom Tov. Everybody arrives to be Oile Regel. They have rights. That's how the Nevi'im were Masakin. Sure, you can live in Yerushalayim, build a home, but you have to vacate, you have to allow, at least accommodate. Yisrael, when they come visit Yerushalayim, it's their territory, like yours. It doesn't belong to the host, to the owner. It's not really yours. You have to accommodate all guests and visitors when they arrive for Yom Tov. Because it wasn't divided to Shvatim. It remained a communal city, international city. So sure, you can build and you can live throughout the year, but come Yom Tov, you have to be ready to have lots of guests. Rabbi Lezer would tell the you can't even charge for your beds. That was all part of the takana. The fichach, therefore, ends off the brisa. Oira is kachin, the various hides from various karbanis which the guests would bring during Yom Tov. Who gets the hide? That's given as a bonus to the host. Balu Shpizin, the host, they can forcefully take those gifts, so to speak. It was a special takana. Since they can't charge for accommodations, they get at least something. We learn from here that typically it's oirach ara. It is derech eretz for any guest. Lemishbak inish, a person to leave over gulfa, his earthen containers, clay pitcher that he emptied out, or mashcha, or his hide that he has from his animal bushpize, to leave it over at the host. That's derech eretz typically. Any guest should at least do that. Be a bit gracious and leave something over for the host. And therefore, based on that derech eretz, come oile regel, we made it an absolute. We instituted it as an absolute thing, which they can force the guests to do, because in this case, it's sort of rightfully theirs, for their tircha and exertion in accommodating their guests. Okay, so bottom line, we learned that Rabbi Yehuda tells us a chiddush. When we speak about selling a shul, that's only if it's a small-time village, but a big-time city, which is used by all people, visitors and travelers. It's considered a makim rabim, which they can't even sell. We have one exception, Rav Ashi Machasya, who's considered the supreme authority in town, and everything was given to his discretion. We had a machlokes whether or not Yerushalayim was divided amongst the Shvat. Okay, so let's get back to the halacha in our Mishnah. Amar Rav Leishanu. When do we restrict the use of money, which is received in exchange for something? You can only upgrade, you can't downgrade. That's only ela shlei machru shiva tuvei. If this sale was not executed by shiva tuvei, they had some sort of a committee running the city, a city council, 7 community leaders who were elected to this council, and they would run all matters in the city. So this concern, this halacha, that the money has to be allocated, directed at the higher kedusha, that's only if the following didn't take place. It wasn't sold using this formal procedure. Shalai machru shiva tuvei, the 7 tuvei were not involved in the sale, but ma'amad anshi in the presence of the community. Aval machru shiva tuvei, but suppose the shiva tuvei were the ones who executed the sale, and they did it by ma'amad anshi in the presence of the community. In this case, they're granted absolute authority. It's sort of like it's all up to them. The entire kedusha, everything was given to them, was pending their decisions. And if they go ahead and they sell this property, be it a shul, whatever it is, then, or speaking specifically about a shul, then it loses all kedusha. You could take this money received in exchange for this shul and use it for beer. To drink beer with it. Shapi Dami, that's also fine. So there's a Gavaldi Chiddush that the Shiva Tuvei have the power to release any Kedusha, to be Mavatal, the Kedusha, so to speak. Because all buildings, assets, properties in the city are in their hands, and if they go ahead and they expropriate, they go ahead and they sell and they exchange, that property now loses its value, loses its kedusha, loses its identity, and the money can be used for anything. Ravina Havalehu Tila de Beknishta. So in Ravina's property, there was this ruins, these ruins of a Beis HaKnesses. Tila means like a pile of rubble, ruins of an old shul. He wanted to use the makim for planting, wanted to cultivate his property. Asla Kamei Rav Ashi. So he comes to Rav Ashi with a shayla. Amalei, he asks him, Ma'ola Mizra, can I go plant the tail of the Beis HaKnesses? Amalei, he tells him, Zil Zavne Mishuva Tuveir. Go ahead and purchase the old shul, the destroyed shul, from the city council, b'mamad Anshir, in the presence of the Anshir, in which case, Vizara, it loses its kedusha, and you can go ahead and plant it. We had another story with Rami Bar Abba. Havakabani be knishta. He was building a new shul. Hava he knishta tika. Now there was an old Beis HaKnesses nearby. Havaboy lemistre. So he was thinking of demolishing the old structure. Ulasuya livne vikshuri mina, and to remove the building materials, the old bricks, the old beams, mina, from the old structure, and use it for the new structure. But bring it to the new construction site. Yosef v'kamei he was sitting and contemplating. Yosef v'kamei boyle hader of Chisda. How do we understand Rav Chisda's halacha? Which halacha? Damar Rav Chisda. Lo'ilister ben knishta. One should never destroy an existing Beis HaKnesses ad bani ben knishta achrit, until he builds a new one. That's the halacha. Don't take chances. First build a new one, and then demolish the old ones. What is the reason for this? Hasam misham pshiyusa. Is the concern perhaps negligence? They might destroy the old one, never get around to building the new one. Is that the reason? And if so, ki gavna mai. What about in this case, where I'm simply transferring material? There's no room for negligence. I'm actually involved in the building of the new shul as I'm demolishing the old one. So perhaps here we can be lenient. Also, come to our papa. So he came to our papa and asked him the question. V'asale, he didn't allow it. He came to Rav Huna. V'asale, he didn't allow it. So perhaps even in this case, there's always a concern of negligence, postponement. Who knows how long it's going to take to get the new shul up and going? There's another svara, which is actually brought in Baba Basra there. What are they going to do in the meantime? In any case, we know how construction works. It's not an absolute art and science. It can get delayed, weather, etc. So you never know. Don't destroy the old one until you have the new one in place. Amarov, back to selling a shul. Hai be'knishta. They decide to sell a Beis HaKnesses. And actually, the Shitas Chachamim and Daf Chazayin is that when you sell the shul, the shul can now be used for any purpose. It loses its kedusha, because the kedusha of the shul gets transferred to the money received in exchange for that shul. So that only works provided you got something in exchange. Chilufa, let's say they switched it for something else, for another property. Vizibuno, they sold it for money. Shari, then the shul now loses its kedusha, because the kedusha got transferred onto the exchange. But a gerua, suppose they rent out the shul, umashkuna, or offered as a collateral, as a mashkin for a loan, in which case you haven't really received anything in exchange for the property also, then the Beis HaKnesses retains its kedusha. My time away, but it retains its kedusha. It was not transferred onto something else. Same thing with building materials. Livni nami, bricks that were part of a shul. Chelufinu, they're exchanged, v'zavninu, and they're sold, shari. Then the kedusha expires. But oizefinu, if they were just loaned out, also, it retains its kedusha. Hanim lebat tikta. That's only when these bricks were already used, part of an existing structure, in which case they had kedusha. Ava b'chalata. Suppose they're brand new bricks, and they were simply prepared for construction of a shul. Less lamba, in this case, is no concern, because they never really had kedusha. Now, afilu mada'amar, even according to the shita, which is shita Abaye in Sanhedrin, that has mana milsi. The b'chlis Abaye v'Rava, in the case of a person who prepares tachrichem for a mace. So he has ready-made clothing which is going to use for tachrichem, for the shrouds for the mace. So they weren't actually used; they were just prepared. Hazmana. It has hazmana. Its designation enough to give it the kedusha, in the case of the mace, the iser hana of the mace, or not. Abaye says hazmona milsi. You have to reckon with preparation, designation. It gives it kedusha, it gives it iser. Rava disagrees. Mere designation, preparation is not considered. So back to the Beis HaKnesses. You have these brand new bricks, perhaps produced for the, Rashi says they were produced in order to be incorporated into the shul construction, but never really used. It's just hazmana. The Gemara maintains, in this case they have no kedusha. Now how does this fit with that discussion over there between Abaye and Rava by hazmana? Says the Gemara, filu man da'amar hazmana milsi, even going to Abaye that holds that preparing something, designating something for the mace, taking this beged and saying, I'm giving this to the mace, has to be reckoned with. That gives it Isser. It identifies with the mace. Hanemili can go in ha'irig beged mace. That's only in the case where he produces a beged. He weaves the beged for the mace. So hazmana milsei. Avalacha, but in this case, where all we have are bricks. Now bricks are 2 steps away from the shul. A brick itself is not suitable for a shul. You have to first incorporate it into a building, and then you have a shul. So in its current form, it's not suitable to serve in shul and as a shul function, right? So in this case, all agree, hazmana is worthless. Avalach, in our case, ketavoi la'arig dami. It's like spinning threads, which will be used to weave a beged, which will be used for the mace. It's 2 steps behind. V'lekel man da'amar, all agree. There's no shita that holds spinning threads for the mace poses a concern. Here as well, bricks are not suitable in their current form for anything. All agree it doesn't have kedusha at this point. What about matana? If he gives a shul away as a gift, or the bricks, he gifts them. So it wasn't a sale, it wasn't an exchange. Does it retain kedusha or loses kedusha? Machlekes. Pligi bar of acharavina. Machlekes between these 2 Amoraim. Chad asar, one says it's asar because he didn't receive anything exchanged for the brick. How could it lose kedusha? V'chad shari, the other one says it's mutter. Explains the Gemara. Man de asar, b'hai tipka kedusha asar. One that says it's asar, very simple, because what procedure was applied which would remove the kedusha? You gave it away as a gift. You didn't get anything in exchange. Uman de shari, the one that says it's mutter, he holds, why are you giving a gift? Just for nothing? If not for the fact that he had some benefit from the recipient, you wouldn't give him a gift. So you got something in exchange. Although not right now, a while ago, but a gift is really another form of a sale. Hador havali matana kezvini, we treat a matana like a sale. It's considered like he did a transaction, you got something then, you're giving him something now. And therefore, just as a zvina, as a sale, works. If you sell the shul, sell the bricks, the kedusha gets transferred. Here as well, a matano, even though at this very moment I'm not getting anything in return, but evidently you did get something, and therefore we treat it like a sale, and it loses its kedusha. Ton Rabban, tashmishe mitzvah nizraken. Things that were used for mitzvah purposes, mitzvah accessories, mitzvah items, after use, a lulav after use, nizrak. You can dispose of them. Tashmisha kedusha nignazen, but kedusha accessories, they have to be hidden, buried. You have to treat them with respect. Now in halacha it's brought that even tashmisha mitzvah, even though the halacha you can get rid of them, but it's better to take care not to be mavaza them, not to degrade them. Ve'elu hayin tashmisha mitzvah. What's considered tashmisha mitzvah? Sukkah, lulav, shofar, tzitzis. So all these things were used for a mitzvah. But once the mitzvah was done, there isn't really a lingering effect on this item, and therefore you can just be zurich them. There's actually a story with Achsam Sofer, a famous story, that there were 2 Talmidim who came to his yeshiva to take an entrance exam. And one was of a higher caliber, big Baal Kishron. The other one was nothing to write home about. he tested them both, and he sent them off, and eventually he accepted the bacher of lower stature. And he explained himself. They asked him, what's going on? I mean, you had a genius there. Why did you let him go? He said, I'll tell you what happened. On the way out, I was watching them through the window. Now, it was after Sukkot. So there was sukkah boards or schach on the floor. And they were both approaching the fallen sukkah, dismantled sukkah. And I was watching to see what they're going to do. The smarter boy just walked right over it. Ignore the fact that it's a chayfetz shel mitzvah. He just walked right over it. And the other boy, he took care to walk around it out of deference and respect to the chayfetz shel mitzvah. So like halacha, it's okay, nizraken, but you see sensitivity. Sedach Sam Sefer, hatzlachen and ruchnis and learning isn't just a matter of brains. I saw that fellow had more sensitivity, more feeling for matters of kedusha, matters of mitzvah. I want him in the yeshiva, and he took him, not the other one. So tashmish and mitzvah technically don't have kedusha, but they're meant to be treated with respect. The fact that they serve for a mitzvah. Ve'elu and tashmish kedusha, which have to be nignozin, the luskemei sfarim, a sack used to store svarim. When we say svarim, it means nevi meksuva. So this type of container, or a container of tefillin and mezuzos, the tikshel sefer Torah, something used to hold a sefer Torah, v'nar tikshel tefillin, container for tefillin. So Rashi says luskmi is amtachas, a sack. Tik v'nar tik also very similar to that. It says tik is a longer thing and a nar tik is a shorter case. In any case, all these cases used to store sefer Torah, tefillin, and mezuzah are considered tashmisha kedusha because they're accessories to something which is kaddish, a serving kedusha. Uritzu is saying, as well as the straps of these things, straps of tefillin, etc. Amar Rava Mereishav Amina. Initially, I figured, hi kursaya. Kursaya is the platform, the bima upon which we read the Torah and the Beis HaKnesses. I had figured that how we're going to classify it. Tashmish to tashmishu. It's not serving this Torah directly. It's serving something that serves the Torah. Visharin, therefore, it doesn't have kedusha. Why? Because as Rashi explained, they would first place a mappa, some sort of cloth, on the bima, upon which they place the sefer Torah. So since the bima was never serving the sefer Torah directly, it's not considered tashmisha kedusha. That's what I figured initially, given the chazina. But then once I noticed the moisvis eloya sefer Torah that sometimes they do place the sefer Torah directly on the bima. So I changed my mind. Amina, now I figure tashmish kedusha huva also is considered tashmish kedusha, serving sefer Torah directly, and must be treated as such. Initially I figured, hi prisa. What is a prisa? Rashi explains, it's a yiriyah, some sort of curtain sheperson sviva sa'aron bifnim, which is hung inside the Aron HaKodesh. It's sort of adorning the Aron HaKodesh. So I figured tashmish to tashmishu. Once again, it's twice removed because it's adorning the Aron HaKodesh, which serves as a sefer Torah. So it in itself doesn't have kedusha. But given the chazina, but once I noticed the aifile yumanchi sifra aliyah, aifile means they fold it over. Somehow they arrange the curtain in a way that they can place the sefer Torah directly on it. Amina, now I realize tashmish kedusha uva aser, since it serves in that capacity as well, has then of a tashmish kedusha and must be treated with respect. V'amarava, another halacha, hai tevoisa, this is the Aron Kodesh, the earpod which is coming apart. So you want to dismantle it and use the boards for something else. Mi'abda tevas utrasi shorish. You want to take the large Aron HaKodesh and retool it into a smaller Aron HaKodesh. That's fine because they're pretty much doing the same thing. One is bigger, one is smaller. It's the same level of kedusha. But kursaya aser. But to turn the Aron HaKodesh into a bima upon which they read the Torah, that's aser. And the Ran explains because the bima only has occasional use during Kriyas HaTorah, a couple of times a week. and it's considered lower in stature than the Aron HaKodesh, which houses the Sefer Torah on a regular basis. That's a chiddush. V'amarav, hai prisa de bala. So back to that prisa, that curtain hung inside the Aron HaKodesh, de bala. Let's say it wore out. So what can we do with it? Lemeb de prisa lesafri, to turn into a material cover for a Sefer Torah. Sure, that's fine, because you're not really downgrading. It was serving a Sefer Torah, and it continues serving that capacity. But to turn it into a material which is going to house a chumash, that's aser. Now chumash here doesn't mean a printed chumash, it means a scroll chumash. Rashi says it's different than a Sefer Torah, which has all 5 svarim together. A chumash is only a fifth. That's what's called chumash, a chaimish, a fifth. So it only has one of these svarim, and that's considered something of lesser kedusha than a Sefer Torah, of course, and therefore you can't divert this prisa from a Sefer Torah to a chumash. V'amarava, hai zvili. What about these storage containers, travel containers? The chumshi used for chumashim, the kamatri, the sifri, containers used to transport Sefer Torah. Tashmish kedusha nino v'nignazen. They're considered something that serves. It's an accessory of a davar kadosh, and has the kedusha of a tashmish kedusha, and it has to be hidden, has to be buried. It can't just be discarded of. Pshita. It says more, of course, why would you think otherwise? It's serving a Sefer Torah, it's serving a chumash. Perhaps I would think, Hani lav l'koved avidan. Oh, they're not meant to serve the Sefer Torah in an honorable context. They're not trying to beautify the Sefer Torah. They're not adding kavod. It's just l'naturi ba'alma avidah, meant to guard the Sefer Torah, to secure the Sefer Torah, to protect the Sefer Torah during travel or storage, and therefore perhaps it's not considered tashmish kedusha. Kamashmalon, the chiddush is no. They are adding kavod, perhaps due to their elaborate design, etc. They're meant to add kavod as well, and therefore they are considered. They're not just considered storage containers, they're considered tashmishe kedusha. Hahu beiknishta, there was this shul, the Yudoy, which was built and used by Roman Jews who came to Bavel. They made their own community, their own shul. What happened to that shul? So the main sanctuary was opened, lahu and druna, to this hallway, this alleyway. So in this side room, there was a mace. Vahavu boy kahani l'meil etzli hasam. Kahana wanted to come enter the shul and daven, but they couldn't because the tumah, the next room, spreads into the shul. So how do we block off the tumah? Also, Amrulay l'Rav. They came to Rav and they asked him what to do. Amrulay, he tells them, look, dalu tevusa. You can pick up the Aron HaKodesh with the Sefer Torah, a svua, and roll it over to that, that entranceway, and block off the entranceway to the side room. Apparently, it's not called a diversion. It's not called downgrading the Aron HaKodesh, because it's just a quick temporary use. It's not considered a true redesignation. So that would be mutter, and that would block the tumah from entering the shul. Why? Because this Aron HaKodesh is a wooden kli, and it's meant to remain in place, to remain stationary. Right? It's not meant to be moved around with the Sefer Torah. It's too heavy for that. So the halacha is that in such a case, this type of kli, which is not meant to be transported empty and full, it's not makabel tumah. It doesn't really serve in a true kli function. It's meant to remain in place. It's like a structure. So it's not makabel tumah. It can't receive tumah upon itself. And also, v'choitis pnei tumah, like in this case, it's going to block the tumah from spreading. It's like part of the wall. Rashi says we learn from a pasuk that kli eitz is connected to a sack, and a sack is something which you meant to transport, full or empty. So only that is makabel tumah. Only that's considered a true kli, utensil. But something which is meant to remain in place doesn't have that halacha. So here's a perfect solution: block the entranceway with the Aron HaKodesh. This will prevent the tumah from spreading into the shul. Rabban responded to Rava, what do you mean? At times we see that they move the Aron HaKodesh, even when the Sefer Torah is inside, And if so, it's something which is moved around full or empty. You can't block tumah. It's not a structure. It's a kli. It's a mobile kli. So you respond, if that's the case, if it is moved around, well, yafshar, you're right, it cannot be used. What are the material coverings of Sefer Torah which wore out and they're no longer functioning? What do you do with them? So these are tashmishei kedusha, meant to be buried. What's the ideal way of burying these things? You turn them into tachrich, into shrouds for a meis mitzvah, destitute meis, which we have to look after. That's the best way to bury them. V'zuhi gnizasam. That's the best way of doing gniza. Do a mitzvah during the gniza. That's the best thing you can do. Bama Rava, another halacha. Sefer Torah shabala. Let's say Sefer Torah wore out and it's no longer fit for use. Goinzun oisei is a Talmud Chacham. You hide it, you bury it with a Talmud Chacham. Afilu sheni halachas. Even if he's not the greatest Talmud Chacham, a Baki B'Shas, if he just learns halachas, Mishnah, Brayos, that's enough. Amar B'Achar Bar Yaakov, but you shouldn't manually destroy the Sefer Torah. Place it in a klicheres, put it in a clay pot when you bury it. This way it's not considered like you're destroying it directly. Shenemar and Satam klicheres, Leman Yamdu Yomim Rabbim, we find in Yirmiyah, they told him to put the document in a klicheres. This way it's protected for longevity. So here as well, don't destroy the Sefer Torah, although you're burying it near the Talmud Chacham, but protect it somewhat. Continues the Gemara. V'amar Rav Papi Mishmei de Rava. Mibei Knishta, Libei Rabbanan Shari. Suppose they have a Beis HaKnesset, a Beis Knishta. They want to convert it into a Beis Rabbanan, into a Makom of learning, a Beis HaMedrash. Shari, that's allowed. So whether you're actually converting this Beis HaKnesset into a Beis HaMedrash, or you're selling the Beis HaKnesset in order to purchase a Beis HaMedrash, it's considered an upgrade, and it's mutter. Torah stands higher than Tefillah, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam, is considered Malin B'Kodesh. However, in the reverse, that's not allowed. Maybe Rabbanan, to turn a Beis HaMedrash into a Beis HaKnesses, Lebei Knishta Aser, is considered a downgrade. Rav Papa Mishmei de Rava Masni Ifcha. Rav Papa's version of Rava was the other way around, indicating that Beis HaKnesses stands higher than a Beis HaMedrash. Rav Acha, Kavasei Rav Papa Mustaver. It appears that the first version of Rava, the way Rav Papi quotes Rava, which indicates that a Beis HaMedrash stands high, is the correct version. Why? Because Rav Shimon Levi concurs with that version. Rav Shimon Levi, Beis HaKnesses, mutar la'asosei Beis HaMedrash. Shmamina. He holds that you can turn a Beis HaKnesses into a Beis HaMedrash. And as Tosfos points out, this is actually a machlokes between Rav Shimon Levi and Rabbi Yochanan. And when there is such a machlokes, we follow Rav Shimon Levi. And since he holds that a Beis HaMedrash stands higher, that appears to be the correct approach. You can turn a Beis HaKnesses into a Beis HaMedrash. Is considered an upgrade. Malin B'Kodesh. Okay, let's do a quick chazara of today's daf. Malin B'Kodesh, we learned from the fact that B'Tzalel made the Mishkan, but it was built by Moshe. Ve'ein Mo'iriden. The fact that they incorporated the machtos of Korach V'Adasa into the Mizbeach. So let's go up the ladder. Let's go up the pyramid here. We start from the Rechav Shalir, which according to the Chacham actually doesn't have any Kedusha because it's just an occasional use. We go up to the Beis HaKnesses, and as the Gemara tells us, the Beis HaKnesses shel Kracham cannot be sold. You sell the Beis HaKnesses, you can go buy the Teva, that's the Aron HaKodesh, and up to the Mitpaches, the material encasing around the Sefer Torah. From there we go to Revi Meksuvim, and the top of the pyramid is the Sefer Torah itself. So you can always rise and go up, but not go down. We learned machlokes regarding Yerushalayim, whether it was divided amongst the Shvatim or not. We learned a Chiddush that the Zayin Tuvei Ir, B'Mabad Anshe Ir, can remove Kedusha from the shul totally. When you saw the Beis HaKnesses itself loses its Kedusha. So one second, the Zayin Tuvei Ir, not only can the Beis HaKnesses lose its Kedusha, but even the money, right? That's the Chiddush. Even the money that they receive in exchange can now be directed and be used for anything. Now we learned that when you sell the Beis HaKnesses loses its Kedusha as well. That's only if it was exchanged or sold. but just loaned or rented, you don't really exchange it for anything. It retains its status. Regarding a matana, we have a machlokes, do we treat it like a sale or not? We proceeded with the halach of tashmisha. Tashmisha mitzvah on Nizrakin, sukkah, lulav, etc. Tashmisha kedusha, when they are there to be machabe the item, not just shmira. They are nignazin. We have an example of nignazin. You make tachrichin from the mitpachet, tachrichin from Eis mitzvah. We went about sefer Torah shebala. You hide it next to you bury it next to the Talmud Chacham in a kli cheres. And the conclusion was that the Beis HaKnesses can be upgraded to a Beis HaMedrash, which stands higher than the Beis HaKnesses. Haslach Rabbah and B'suras Tevis to you. All the best.